Hi, everyone. Welcome to Nom Watch Review, if I could speak, part of Nom Talk Network. On this show, we review the latest film drop or throwback celebrating a milestone while eating and drinking our favorite snacks and drinks. I'm your host, Erric Ramirez, and tonight I'm not eating anything because I stuffed my face earlier, but in theme of the movie that we're about to talk about, I have a spiked eggnog with some rum. It's quite delicious, quite strong though, so I have to be careful. But I would love to introduce our lovely guests tonight, Mike and Raven. Thank you for coming and talking with us tonight. Raven, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Raven, aka Sanguine Threads. You can kind of find me all over the net. I'm on several podcasts that I just oddly wander in and out of, including X's for Podcast, which you can now catch us live on Sundays. And we would love to have you by all means. And oh, yes, tonight I am eating a red curry with homemade fried rice cakes.
That sounds delicious. Yeah.
That sounds so good. I'm kind of jealous that I ate earlier now. Mike, go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody out there.
Sure thing. Hey guys, I'm Mike Manalo from the Nerds of Color. You may have seen me do some of the She-Hulk reviews and the Moon Knight reviews on this channel. I'm on the nerdsofcolor.org, so you guys can find me there. I'll get to those intros at the end of the show. Personally, though, I love coming on Nom Talk and talking about awesome movies that I enjoy. And tonight's feature drink will be a Coke Zero. It's very festive because it's red, like Christmas or blood, in the case of Krampus. It's not filled with blood, it's filled with Coke, but still. Anyways, yeah. Merry Christmas, guys.
Just almost there. Change the Coke for the blood and we're there. But today we are talking, and the anniversary is in a couple of years, but 7-year-old movie Krampus that came out in 2015 is what we will be talking about tonight. I'm super excited to start off on this. So before we get into like the breakdown of the movie and everything, I want to know where you guys first saw this movie, what interested you about it. We'll start with you, Mike.
Yeah. So for me, I'm a big Mike Dougherty fan. I've been a fan actually since he wrote X2, and X2 for me was at the time we didn't have comic book movies like we had the MCU. So X-Men was always my favorite, and X2 just knocked it out of the park. It ended up becoming my favorite comic book movie of all time. And I was like, who wrote this? And it ended up being a guy named Mike Dougherty. Flash forward to a couple of years, Mike Dougherty's directing and writing his own movie, a little movie called Trick or Treat, which I'm sure everybody out there who loves horror and loves seasonal horror knows and loves as one of the quintessential Halloween cult classics. And when Trick or Treat actually, it never debuted in theaters. It was a direct-to-video release, so it never got to gather the audience that it did initially. It could have been capable of initially. Once it ended up gathering that cult following, though, Legendary Pictures, who produced the film, they were like, hey, the guy that did Trick or Treat, which is now a beloved classic, let's give him a huge budget, or at least relatively huge for a Christmas creature feature movie, and let's see what he does with Christmas. So when Krampus went into production, Mike Dougherty was set to direct, and really this was going to be a follow-up to Trick or Treat. I was on board. I was like, I have to freaking see this movie now. He did such great work with Trick or Treat. I love his stuff. The idea of a big budget creature feature by the guy that did Trick or Treat, centered around the Krampus mythology, it just appealed to me a lot. So in 2015, after months of anticipation, especially at Comic-Con in 2015 and everything like that, where they promoted this, I got really excited, and I went to go see this just at my local theater. I think the ArcLight Culver City, which no longer exists, sadly. And I enjoyed the living crap out of this movie. It wasn't, now granted, I'm going to set expectations for you horror fans. Hopefully you've all seen it, but if you haven't seen it, I don't like it as much as Trick or Treat. I also don't really like it as much as Godzilla King of the Monsters, which Mike Dougherty also did. But honestly speaking, I still love the hell out of this movie. It's so much fun. It's so twisted. It's got this Joe Dante feel to it. And it just brings people together over the holidays, over their shared love of torturing terrible people. So there you go.
Especially if they're family.
Yes.
They're family, so they're all terrible.
They're all terrible people.
I never related more to an ant more when she kept drinking and drinking. I was like, yep, you're my person. I'd hang out with you all day, every day. Raven, what was your first like experience with Krampus, and were you excited when it was coming out? What were your thoughts?
Well, I don't like Christmas, especially. It's a very saccharine holiday for me, and I'm a little bit darker. I'm a little bit more gothy. I don't need everybody with ugly sweaters and spice cake and let's know. It's like, no, just so I love horror, and I really, really love like the horror Christmas genre, which there aren't nearly enough movies in. So when I happened to run across this, I think it was like on Netflix or YouTube, one of the two, I was like, yeah, no, we're watching this. We're watching. And I was just blown away with it. They really did it right. I'd already watched stuff like Anna versus the Apocalypse, which is a wonderful apocalyptic musical set at Christmas. Fantastic. I'd seen other like, Jingle All the Way, Slay, all the other good, classic but kind of trashy ones. So to see this and have like, they had really good sets and really good effects, and like their creature feature was fantastic. I'm like, wow, they really put everything into this. And so I was blown away with it. I just fell in love because you could tell somebody really cared about all the different levels of this movie and really put a lot of heart and soul into it. And yeah, I thought it was fantastic. And Lionsgate and Asylum are my two favorite like horror genre film studios, because they create what I more often call beautiful trash. You're like, oh, it's just gonna be a fun romp. I can't exactly expect it to be Shakespeare in the Park kind of thing, but I'm gonna enjoy it. This, I enjoyed it, and it was well done. So I was like, they knocked it out of the park. That's good on them for that. I love it.
I completely agree with you. The effects and the casting for this, I thought were brilliant. Michael Dougherty definitely took his time in developing every aspect of this film, because it was they gave it to him, but it was still kind of a struggle for him to get what he wanted to do. Plus, there was like 6 other Krampus movies coming out around the same time, which was kind of ridiculous. It was like everybody heard about Krampus and they were just like, let's do it. For me, I saw it in theaters. I loved it. I love Christmas. It's one of my favorite holidays. I'm born in December, so I just can't help it. But also give me horror and Christmas, and I'm in no matter what. I'm there. So that's why I'm going to go see the mean one. But before we get into this breakdown of the movie a little bit, I wanted to touch base on your guys' popcorn ratings. What would you rate Krampus? Now that you've seen it again, it's been a couple of years old. Mike, we'll start with you again on this one. What's your popcorn rating? 1 to 5.
It's a 3.5 out of 5 for me. I really like this movie a lot. I'm definitely a fan of some of the traditional Christmas creature feature movies, like Gremlins, for example. I think is kind of like what most people consider to be the gold standard, I suppose. But with Krampus, it's a really fun movie. I do think that there are aspects of it that I think they actually, I'm just looking at, I think it makes it hard to connect with some of the characters because they're so unlikable. There really isn't a single person in the bunch that you want to survive this. And I suppose that's what you want in a horror movie, but you also do want to have some sort of heart and some sort of connection to a lot of the characters there that I think is kind of lacking. But that being said, something that Raven touched upon, the effects here are amazing. The creature effects are amazing. This is Weta, actually. I believe like this is the first time. Yeah, because I remember Weta went ahead and started selling Krampus stuff on their website because they actually did the creature feature portions of this. And I ended up buying a bell. And I can't find the bell anymore. It's somewhere there. Hopefully that doesn't mean that I lost the spirit of Christmas or anything like that. And
Krampus just took it back from your mind.
Yeah, he just took it back from me. Anyways, I think it's in storage somewhere. But that being said, the creature feature work is phenomenal here. It's just a joy and a fun, and it doesn't get more twisted than the gingerbread man or the angel or the toys just attacking people. I love it. You got to love that about this movie. So 3.5 out of 5 popcorns for me.
I do have to agree with you. I give it a 3.5 out of 5 popcorns, just because, like you said, the characters, I didn't connect with them as well as I wanted to. The ones that I did like more kind of got off a little bit sooner than I would have anticipated, and others made it to the end. But that would be my only one complaint about this, and why I gave it a little bit lower of a score. Raven, what was your score?
I think I gave it 4 birch branches out of 5. If you know, you know. But honestly, I think I went a little bit softer on it, gave it a little bit higher rating because I know Krampus, like the figure Krampus, rather well. I know the mythos behind it rather well. So I'm like, if Krampus is showing up at your party, you're going to be terrible people, and I know you're going to be terrible people because Krampus is showing up. He doesn't just show up for anything. He shows up for like the worst of the worst. You know, he's vengeance. He's, you know, the bill come due at the end of the year kind of thing. So I'm like, oh yeah, no, you're all going to be terrible people. I'm rooting for the monster. So I'm like, yes, some of the people that I thought were a little bit nicer got off a little bit earlier, but then again, they were also the people who probably wouldn't have fought back as hard. So it's like, oh, you're the softer one, so of course you're gonna go sooner because you're not too cued into how completely screwed over you are right now. So
yeah. No, I get that. Like, especially the first killing in that movie, I'm just like, you wouldn't have done anything. So I get it, but I would have hoped she would have helped her brother. But getting into it, this little bit of a breakdown is, for the storyline, a boy who has a bad Christmas accidentally summons a festive demon to his family home. That's the breakdown on IMDb. Now, we can get into it because, one, like I said, Christmas drinking around family is go-to because you can't stand family sometimes. But Max, played by MJ Anthony, kind of fighting with his family, his cousins, his mom, his dad. Everybody is torn apart. And he still believes in Santa Claus. But his cousins find a letter and read it out loud in front of everybody. He's just wishing the best for his parents, his aunt and uncle, his sister, his somewhat questionable cousins. And so he makes a wish and he says he wants all of them to go away. And then there's a huge blizzard. And they get locked in their houses, and then things start to go awry. They lose power. They don't see anybody or hear anybody except for that one DHL driver, which was kind of weird. And then we see them start getting picked off, starting with the sister, then the little brother, and things start to get even worse. We start seeing the elves and the snowman, and we start seeing glimpses of Krampus, until all of them get picked off, including Max, who's MJ, at the end, and he kind of fights back and requests his family back. They end up in a snow globe, so we think, at the end, and it looks like they're either happy or not. What are you guys thinking of the pacing of this movie and like everything that went on? Because I feel like it was a little bit quick, paced, and they could have like dived into a little bit more. Raven, what did you think about this like pacing and the storyline itself?
I want to say they didn't even have to add like that much more time, like just give it an extra maybe 10 minutes. And I think that would have just kind of helped the pacing and the exposition, because there were certain times like you needed to be able to absorb just a little bit more, kind of let it sink in, let that feeling of dread start to really ruminate. And instead, sometimes it was just a little too quick. And you're like, oh, that was good, but I didn't really get time to go, like, I need a little bit of that moment. But like, I think honestly, if they had added maybe 10 extra minutes in and just kind of parsed that out just to give us a little bit more time, a little bit more exposition, it would have been like perfect.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I was watching the DVD before all of this, and there was some cutscenes. Some of them didn't make sense to me. Like when the sisters like have their little like argument, she's like, "Oh, you're jealous." That didn't make sense to me. But I get it. You were trying to get us to understand the characters and their relationships a little bit more. It just seemed like it was a lost opportunity to just give us that little bit more that we needed. Mike, what did you think about the story and the pacing and everything?
No, I agree with you guys. Honestly, I love. Don't get me wrong. The movie knows its priorities. It knows that the really focus needs to be on the monsters, and the messed up little characters, the elves, the toys and everything like that. And it delivers on what it promises. But I think for me, some of my favorite creature features were the old Amblin ones. When you end up what ended up being appealing to a lot of these sort of old 80s creature feature kind of high end horror films was that you'd have like a little bit of a slower pacing, but it's so that you can connect with these characters, like I was talking about from the beginning. So a couple of more scenes of maybe these characters kind of interacting with each other and kind of trying to understand each other instead of just sort of hating each other and everything like that. I think that could have made all the difference in this. And it could have actually allowed us to. I think the movie ultimately would have been better if you took that time to actually flesh that out. When you think about things like Jaws, or when you think about things like Nope, those are actually slower paced movies because you're trying to establish these relationships between these characters, and therefore when you're battling the shark or when you're battling Jean Jacket or something like that, you actually care. You really care about what's going on and everything like that. And I thought with Krampus, it's so much fun. But I wanted to care a little bit more as things were escalating. And if you added just a couple more minutes, I think the 10 minutes that Raven suggested, maybe even 15 or something like that, just to flesh out these characters a little bit more, and to kind of connect those relationships, make them more human, make the whole movie a little bit more human.
Yeah.
Then I think that would have actually benefited a lot more.
Yeah.
Also,
Make them not.
I wanted a little bit more time with Krampus themselves. Like I
Yeah.
wanted to see a little bit more
Oh, that's a great
about the
idea.
monster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
The mythology behind it.
Yeah, exactly. Because like you can always, bring in whatever big bad as long as they look ugly. Great, awesome. People go, oh yeah, that's the villain. But I'm like,
Yeah.
no, really, really give me something to latch onto about the monster. Let me understand it a little bit more, because if people don't understand Krampus, like the mythos behind Krampus, they're getting a really good surface level monster, but they're not understanding quite the depth of horror that can really come with this particular individual or creature. Because I mean, there's a very long and rich history behind Krampus and Krampus Knock. So sorry, I probably just butchered that, but yeah, like I need that.
Yeah.
Well, and that the Michael Dougherty and everybody knew about that because they actually paused release of this movie until December 4th of 2015, because Krampus Knocked is December 5th. So they held it off purposely to come out with the festival. But interesting enough, doing a little bit of research and everything about that 10 minutes you're talking about, originally he was supposed to be attacking the town and taking people from around in different houses. I think if they would have done that, they could have fleshed out the characters a little bit more, and we would have saw more of the monster as well. Which is a tragedy that they had to just keep cutting back on stuff.
I really like that idea. When you think about it, if he were to attack the town rather than just one family, think about all of the things like thematically that you could say about how people have gotten a lot more mean-spirited over the years, and how society as a whole needs to be a little bit kinder, and I think that would have made things a lot better. But to center it on just the family and not like a more global aspect, like think about movies like The Mist, where you explore the depths of humanity and how humanity and society completely crumbles, in the face of this sort of apocalyptic event. If the Krampus Knocked was the apocalyptic event and this town was just crumbling under the weight of all of the weight and the horror of all of this, you could have had a lot more rich themes in this film that I think would have been a lot more relevant today, especially in the times that we're living in now.
Oh yeah, I mean, they even start off the movie with that Black Friday sale thing, and you see how horrible people are.
It's wonderful, yeah.
See the fight, like that is. I really wish I would have been able to see all those people get theirs, in lack of a better term, because people have just become much like Max was saying, it's kind of feeling more self-centered, more self-involved. Like we really don't care about other people, depending on the person. But there is a change in society that's going. But I did want to touch base on the chat for a couple of seconds. There's something that's going on in there. Nom Talk Network says, I wish there was more of a mythos. Give people a reason to be afraid of Krampus for sure.
Yes.
Cuba agrees. Everybody agrees, actually. Peggy says yes, that would have been definitely helpful. Don't think I didn't use Krampus with my kids. Haha. It was right before my son's birthday. So good job, Peggy says.
Hey, Jen. Yeah. Thanks for watching.
But yeah, no. So I did want to, because we brought this up a couple of times, Mike, you brought this up, and so have you of Raven, of the creature feature. And this is a Christmas creature feature film. You've kind of already touched base on Gremlins, but what do you think makes this more of a creature feature, and do you think it's going to live up in society for the next, when it gets to its 10 years or its 20 years? We'll start with you on Raven.
Well, I mean, it's not just the fact that you've got like little gingerbread, little, things coming to life and chasing you and coming after you and eating you and that kind of thing. But I mean, just look at the massive size of your main villain, of Krampus, with that giant, almost Santa-esque thing going on, but it's got that gnarled hunch and that god-awful sound when you feel it getting close. I mean, it's just like everything in it, just you want to run away from it. And that's a great way to have a creature feature. It's one thing to have like, the look and the practical effect, but it's another to put like the sound and the kind of the grossness with it. Like it feels like if it reached out and touched you, it would leave just a film on you. It's like it needs to be that kind of that visceral reaction. You need that. And they gave it to me. So I love it on that.
Okay. And Mike, what do you think about like this creature feature? Is it gonna stand up? Do you think they could have changed better to like make it more substantial?
No, I think Weta knocked it out of the park with this one. It's so memorable, the different monsters and the different creatures in this. One of the things that I love is just it's an absolute, and I use this in the best way possible. It's an absolute perversion on all Christmas mythology, because it just takes things like those angels and it makes them like little creatures and everything like that. Gingerbread men for sure, toys and presents, the Jack in the Boxes and everything like that. And all these things that we remember fondly as just a heartwarming Christmas motifs and themes throughout the years, just completely turned into just the most horrific and scary creatures. And if let's say you watch the movie and you completely forget about it, the one thing that you won't forget is how these things look. And I absolutely love that. And it's because of the shocking aesthetics of all of it that I think this has persisted into cult classic status. And it's definitely achieving that. I think it's going to solidify that in the next couple of years. We're approaching 10 years of it. We're not quite there, but we're approaching 10 years of it. In 15 years, people are still going to be talking about this movie during the holidays. And it's because, you've got your Love Actuallys, you've got your Christmas Stories, you've got your elves, but you don't have anything quite like this. And people are going to always remember this as one of the quintessential, I think, Christmas horror classics, at least of the past decade.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it can stand up to the test of time because they took the time to do the practical puppets and toys and destroy things. They didn't really rely on the CGI as much, which I do appreciate. I do wish I was able to see Krampus more, like you guys said, just because I think they did do a cool job with him, because we saw the elves. Those were awesome.
Yeah.
And all the toys. But out of all the toys, because we had the angel on top of the tree, we had the teddy bear, we had the Jack in the Box, we had the robot. Which one was your most frightful? Nom Talk Network says that the Jack in the Box was solid nightmares. Which one do you think they did the best job and scared you the most? We'll start with you, Mike.
I'm gonna go with the angel, actually. Just the way that it opens up the teeth, but then still got those innocent eyes, you know. I mean, I'm just like, what the hell were they thinking? And I love that because it's just so creepy, it's so messed up. I close second is the teddy bear because I have to admit it's kind of cute. I kind of want one just if they ever
Just a
sold it.
bloody teddy bear. Just
Yeah, it's got cute little eyes too, but it's just like a horrific like teeth and everything like that afterwards. So I kind of love those two. Those two are my favorites, but for really different reasons, I guess. I don't know.
Well, they actually do sell teddy bears, Mike, that are very cute, and then you squeeze them, and
Yeah.
it's just a horrifying, like fangs and teeth. They're great.
Is it the exact same Krampus one?
No, they're
Oh.
actually very much cuter, but the Krampus one I would love.
I would
Raven, which one did you love? Which
Oh,
which one scared you or freaked you out the most?
100% the angel freaked me out the most. Like, okay, so the angels from Doctor Who, and then that weird creepy doll thing that Sid made from Toy Story, both of those things like creeped me out to the extreme, and this really harkened back to those, and I'm just like, I was uncomfortable the entire time. I'm like, just make it stop, please. No, nightmare fuel. Pure nightmare fuel. I would take the Jack in the Box over that damn thing.
Jack in the Box is actually cuter, you know?
Right. I'm like, yeah, no, it's a Jack in the Box. I know that it's gonna pop out and scare me. I get this. This. But that angel was it was absolute nightmare fuel for me in particular. I'm like, nope. Just nope. I would throw that thing in the fire and stomp it. Just nope. I don't care what kills me next. That thing's gonna die. Just
See, and I'm the outlier here because I do have to say the Jack in the Box got me. Like, because he's like long and wormy, and then when his face just kind of like opened up and he was like sucking the girl, and you just kind of saw like the like drool and the blood. Ugh. I was like, no, I can't do it because he got her under the car. He can hide under her bed. Like, no, that's my worst fear. Anything under the bed. So
hey,
Jack in the Box is mine.
That's why you jump like that 6 foot distance from the door to the bed as a child. You hit that light, you jump that 6 feet, and you make sure your feet are up on the bed, cover it up.
That is very true. So now that we've gotten into the story a little bit and the creatures and stuff, I do want to get into this cast because it was not a very large cast, but they had some big names. Mm-hmm. So we had Tom, who played the dad. That was Adam Scott. Sarah was Toni Collette. Beth, who was the sister, was Stephanie Owen. Max was MJ Anthony. Omi was Krista Stellar. Aunt Dorothy, who I have to cheers Aunt Dorothy because it's her, was Conchita Farrell. Linda, who was the sister, was Allison Tolman. Howard, who was her husband, was David Kochner. Jordan was Queenie Samuels. Stevie was Lolo Owen, who was actually sisters with the sister of Max in the movie. They were two sisters, but they played two different family members. Howie Jr., which was the kid that just gave you that dumb blank stare the entire time. And the baby. What did you think about this cast? Do you think they could have casted better? How do you feel like they vibed off of each other? We'll start with you on this one, Mike.
Yeah, no, this was a perfect cast, in my opinion. I don't think you can improve on it, honestly. First off, you've got some world-class actors there. Toni Collette. How do you say no to Toni Collette? She's honestly, every horror movie that she's in, she really classes it up and she gives it her all. Even this, which is considered kind of a B movie creature feature, she really did well in. Much less her work in like Hereditary, which is one of my all-time favorite horror classics. But Toni Collette's just amazing. But then you also have Allison Tolman, who's just very much praised. Her work in Fargo was terrific. And all of them kind of the interactions as well between two really world-class comedic actors like Adam Scott, who is also a terrific actor because, his work in Severance, really completely different from his work in Parks and Rec and some of the like Step Brothers, some of those other really hilarious movies, bouncing off of David Koechner, who is just really hilarious as like Top Packard and everything else, Anchorman, Champ, having that dynamic between them that chemistry between the wussy guy and the tough guy, you know, with the shotguns and stuff like that. It's really, really funny. It really makes you hate David Koechner even more, but at the same time, you know, it's just they play off of each other so well. And it's because not a single one of these actors is a weak actor. And they all know how to act within ensembles. They all know good comedic timing. So it makes the movie a lot richer from both a comedic standpoint, but also from just a generally well-acted standpoint. You don't have to act great in a movie where the monster is the star of the show, but they still do. They're still giving it their all. And it really, really brings the movie up from just that B movie status that people could easily write it off on to more of an A level. I wouldn't necessarily call it a temple, but certainly a sizable, you know, holiday release for a studio. So that I love this cast. I really do.
Nice. And Raven, what are your thoughts on this entire cast? Because I completely agree. It was amazing for me.
I mean, you're absolutely right. And I like no shade by this. These are some of the best like bit part actors, like the best small actors. Like you see them come on screen, you know who they are, you know their face, you don't always remember their name, but you know that they're always like really good at whatever character that they do. David Koechner is one of my favorite of these kind of actors. He's always good. Like when he's a good guy, he's great. When he's heartfelt and warming and like supposed to be like the big brother or father figure, he can really pull it off. When he's supposed to be the douchebag manager, oh my God, you hate him. You hate him with everything. Thank you, waiting. Oh man, you want to throw him under a bus so bad. It's great. I love him. So like he plays his part so well in this. Conchata Ferrell as Aunt Dorothy. Oh my God, she knocked it out of the park. I mean, like you had so many good people. They really played off of each other really, really well. You know, just I loved them. It was a lot of fun. I think there needed to be something a little bit more, I think, with the script or with the pacing to like really just knock it out of the park. And the fact that they even had people like was it Seth Green? I think, yeah, Seth Green plays Lumpy. Yeah, I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Oh my God! It's like they found people who would really fit the niche for that character, and they had fun with it, and they did such a good job on the cast. I honestly, I really can't think of anybody I would want to replace the people, because each person played their character really well.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And all of them were kind of first outs for Michael Dougherty. Like he wanted them, and he pretty much got them, with the exception of Omi and Krista Stellar. She was like the fourth one to get it because people kept dropping out. But before we talk about Omi, because that's a big question on my mind that I want to ask you guys, which character did you want to die the most, and did you see their death was sufficient for how they were in the movie? We'll start with you on this, Raven.
I kind of all wanted them to die. Like none of them, like, and I don't mean that like, oh, I hated them all. It's like, no, they were each in a different way, and you're just like, you don't need to live. You really don't need to live, because like just the attitude, the way they would snipe at each other, the way they would just, the little jabs, you're like, you're just unpleasant, deeply unpleasant people. And you just, you know what? If you get killed, I'm not sad. I'm kind of rooting for the villain on this one. But I mean, that just kind of attests to how good these actors were, because most of these actors are actors you would just love. But like when they're doing their thing, you're just like, ooh, I kind of want you to die. I'm okay with this.
Mike, was there anyone that you really wanted to die, and did you feel like they got it?
So it's Maverick Flack, the little kid that plays Howie Jr. I'm sorry. I mean, like, look, not the kid himself. I'm sure he's a nice kid. I'm sure he's a very good actor, because he got me to hate him so much with every look on his face.
He didn't even say anything, just that dumb.
Oh,
you just want to punch him.
Yeah.
You just want to punch him. So when he goes to get like the gingerbread man, I was like, yes, get it. And then like it just pulls him up the chimney. I'm like, yes. And they're like trying to pull him out. And I'm like, no, stop it. Stop it. Go put out the fire instead. Go do that. Let the little kid, that's no big loss. You got like a bunch of other kids left. So that's
Pop
okay.
him like your Christmas cracker. That's all I gotta say.
I mean, look, if you're going to bite the head off that gingerbread man and that thing's in pain, then he deserves to take a bite out of you too. So you know what? Take that, kid.
I feel like that is my favorite scene in this. The gingerbread's in the kitchen. Also, just like him biting it, that gingerbread's like shocked face of like, you just bit me, you son of a bitch.
It's just a surprise. It's like a pleasant and messed up surprise in this movie where that gingerbread comes to life and you're just like, what the hell is happening? But I'm so glad that he got it because he's just that kid sucked. Not the actor,
great
just Howard Jr. Yeah.
I mean, that was the one character I was going to say too, and I think he did get. I really wish we would have been able to see him die, but getting taken up the chimney is fine.
Yeah.
We are going to touch base in the chat a little bit because they're having quite a conversation.
Oh yeah, let's do it.
Mike, somebody is kind of disagreeing with you. They don't actually care for Hereditary, but they do love Toni Collette. And then Q says, I think when you got a good cast that love and I think you get a good cast that love and a fan of low budget creature features like this makes the film more interesting and appealing and likable.
Yep.
Evan Miscart says, not the baby and the grammar. Her story was sad and loved the animation on that part, which we are about to touch base on Omi. Let's see. There are a few characters that were redeemable. Do you feel like there's any characters in this that would have been redeemable out of everybody who was in this? Mike, I'll start with you on this one.
Yeah, I mean, for me, Tom, Sarah, and Max, they're not bad people, I mean, this is a family that's trying to, really, they weren't ever bad to begin with. And to a degree, Howard Sr., he kind of shows himself to be at least a little bit softer towards the end of the film. I think if given a little bit more time, we could have seen that arc, flourish. And I mean, in addition to Howie Senior, Linda's pretty okay too. I think if they weren't all killed by a gigantic holiday beast, they actually could have been they could have been better people at the end of this, if they survived. But unfortunately, they all don't make it, and that's okay. So,
Raven, before we get to your opinion on anybody who was redeemable, Nom Talk Network redeemed Hydrate, so everybody drink up.
Oh,
thank you.
And before we get started again, Evan Smart said stretch, so everybody take a good stretch. Ooh, that was actually very nice. Thank you for that. So Raven, did you think anybody was redeemable in this? Like, should have either not died or made it out somehow?
I would have liked to have seen a bit more redemption between Tom and Sarah. Okay. I think there needed to be at least a little reconciliation. I don't know if I want to say I wanted to take them off the table as being, chopping blocked, but I think there needed to be a little bit of some sort of reconciliation so that we felt bad, needed to give me something, maybe a little something to bite down on. And even though I'm not a fan of children, I would have saved the kid. 'Cause I'm like, children, for as annoying as they can be, they do still tend to be able to learn and grow and develop. So I'm just like, I'm okay that he got pulled up a chimney. But at the same point in time, I was like, that's, they usually don't. They usually at least they scare the living shit out of the kid, but somehow the kid gets away and learns a very valuable lesson and goes on to try and do better and save other people. Mm-hmm. But I'm like, you went up the chimney. I'm like,
hi.
Either way, but okay. So I think, just a little bit of reconciliation and maybe save the kid.
I agree with you on that. I feel like, Max didn't deserve what he got. I mean, look, Kevin McAllister wished for his freaking family to go away. And you know what? He learns his lesson. They get him back at the end of the movie, but not before he tortures and horribly destroys a bunch of those, poor burglars, I mean, like he did way worse things than Max and he still got his family back. So justice for Max, guys. Come on. Kevin McAllister, you little shit.
We will actually touch base on this because there's some theories, but I do want to get into Omi. Because we see Omi at the beginning. She's very sweet. She's very loving to Max. This has happened to her before when she was a child. She has one of the bells and everything. Now, my issue with Omi is why the hell didn't she say anything earlier? Like, you kind of figured out what was going on at the beginning when the power went out and everything. You kind of started because you lit that fire very quickly, but you didn't say anything. In one of the deleted scenes, she actually doesn't say anything until the two sisters ask her what's going on because they think that she will know. What are your thoughts on Omi? Do you think she should have spoken up earlier? Do you feel like she should have died as well? We'll start with you on this one, Raven.
For me, it makes sense that she lived because she's been through it before. So she knows the things to do. But I can also understand why she didn't say anything. Because if you've seen this kind of shit before, but nobody else has, and you tell them, oh my God, this is the thing that's going to happen. We're all going to die. A giant demon is going to come down with its minions and basically try and eat us because we don't have the spirit of Christmas. How many people would be like, ooh, looks like Mima needs to take a nice little grippy sock vacation. Either that or the dementia is setting it. Like honestly, so like I could have totally seen like the family going, okay, Grandma, I think you need to like sit down and maybe have another sherry because you're not making a lot of sense. And it would have been the same result. So her not saying anything could just be trauma reaction. Like they are never going to believe me if I try and tell them what is going to happen. The only thing I can do is try and covertly avoid the massive amount of damage. And kind of does her best.
Yeah.
So her being the final girl, as it were, makes sense. It actually makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Mike, what are your thoughts on Omi?
Yeah, two schools of thought. One is for a majority of the movie, she's just like, this might be a coincidence. Maybe it's not Krampus. Oh, gingerbread men go crazy all the time. That's okay. But likely that's not the case. I think the second school of thought is more likely, which is what Raven was touching on. You can't just go around telling people the giant Krampus beast is going to come after us because they're going to be like, what the hell are you talking about? You're crazy. No one's going to believe her. And I think maybe she's also in a little bit of fear and disbelief herself. She's praying, that nothing happens to her family, I'm sure, but not like what happened last time. But unfortunately, I think she recognizes the signs and she's probably just really, really petrified that all of this is kind of going down. So I think maybe she just Omi said basically to herself, these guys have to see these things to actually believe what's going on here. And maybe there's a little part of her that thinks that these guys probably do need to learn a little bit of a lesson too. So, there's that.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I was just about to say that, but the chat yet again blew up. One, people agree with you, justice for Max. They said justice for Max. Peggy said maybe she kind of felt like some of them deserved it to come out of their being assholes, for lack of a better term. Evan Smart said she agrees, and they would think that she was crazy. Q says, I wish Krampus should have scared an ex blank who broke my heart years ago. But talking about Omi, because we did touch base on that beautiful thing where she does tell them eventually about the story of Krampus, that it happened to her. The people in her town disappeared. She was the only one left. Now, there's several views of thought on this that I've come to research and out there because there's two different endings to this movie. The ending that we get is everybody goes down for Christmas, and then they see the bell and all of them kind of remember what happened to them. And then we see Krampus put a snow globe on the shelf. So presumably they're stuck in a snow hell. Snow Christmas Hell. The other ending is them coming down. Max sees the bell, everything, and him and Omi are the only ones who look at it and are like, oh shit, and everybody else is just fine. And then we see Krampus do it again. Now there's a couple of schools of thought that they're either snuck in a snow globe in hell with Krampus, or because Max stood up to Krampus and was like, give me back my family, I messed up, I'm sorry, blah blah blah, all of them did get returned to the real world. And that snow globe is just Krampus watching them to see if they fall back into their old traits of being shitty people. And then another theory that I saw was that Omi is kind of jaded because she didn't do that when Krampus originally went for her. She didn't say sorry. She just kind of let it happen. So that's the difference between her and Max, is that he stood up and actually fought for his family and understood that people can change and he does want them to be alive still. So what are your guys' thoughts on this? We'll start with you, Mike.
Is it wrong that I kind of want the literal ending of them being in hell to be the actual ending? Like, I think that the events of the movie transpire, they all die, and when they kind of wake up the next morning, it's them kind of in the afterlife, and they're just in hell. And I kind of like that ending. I mean, it proves that Krampus is an official, like just a really efficient hunter, I suppose. And I mean, don't mess with the spirit of Christmas, guys. I mean, that's I like that. I don't know. The other interpretations are really interesting, and I do like that. And from a story and thematic standpoint, it works. But nah, I'm not going for high art here. Have them all go to hell.
Everybody go to hell.
Everybody goes to hell. Yeah.
As one does.
Raven, what are your thoughts on this? Like the different theories, like what ending how do you think it ended?
I prefer the second ending, where it's, you had this bad nightmare, two of you remember, and now it's your job to help your family be better people, because you know what could come down the pipeline. And I mean, a lot of like creatures of myth and legend, if they don't get you the first time, they do tend to keep track of you. And I mean, Krampus is very closely kind of tied to, Santa, the Saint Nicholas stories and whatnot. Krampus kind of enforces the naughty list. The first time on the naughty list, you get a lump of coal. The second time, Krampus shows up and takes your ass with him. So to me, like, Krampus is like, this is the lump of coal. I'm going to be keeping track of you. If you decide to go back on the naughty list and do this again, oh yeah, you're the first house I am showing up to. So I'm kind of hoping it's that, because I want that tension to always hang over their head. And I'd love to see it, like, that memory slowly spread to the other family members. Like, yeah, that next Christmas comes around, you're like getting together and you're starting to, it feels like we've done this before. And something really unnerving. I want to see them start to slowly unravel, like a few years down the line. Like, they're like, something's not right here. I want to see, maybe they are in hell. Maybe they can fight their way back out by actually being decent people. Who knows? Yeah. I just say. But yeah, like, better.
I'm more on the fence of like that, a theatrical ending of where all of them kind of like look and just like, oh shit, this went down. But also not that they're in Christmas hell with Krampus, but they did get back to the real world and he's just kind of looming over them. So they do become better people. But to touch base with what you said, Raven, of like Omi and Max knowing and trying to make their family better, Omi knew since she was little and didn't make her family better. So,
I mean, trauma can do weird things. So
that's true. She baked a lot. So, but we're actually almost rounding out to an end of this. Are there any final thoughts or things you guys want to bring up about this movie that we may have missed, that you just enjoy thoroughly? We'll start with you on this one, Raven, and your final thoughts on the film itself.
I want to say it was a beautifully done film. It was honestly like everything that I wanted in a Christmas time horror movie. That's like, It warmed my little dead heart so much. Like, I loved it. Lionsgate, if you would ever like to do a second one of these, like, show the town or a town just crumbling. I think it would go fantastic. I think it would really show how, that negative spirit tends to spread over time. I mean, come on, look at the last couple of years. It would be so apropos. I'm just saying. But yeah, I would love to see more films like this that take kind of a dark bent for the holiday season. Really get us interested and invested not only in the characters, the human mortal characters, but get us interested in the villains, because I think we've finally come to the point in the story where we need to know what the villain's bent is, or the antagonist's bent is on all of this. So yeah, I loved it.
Okay. And Mike, what are your thoughts? Do we miss anything? Would you recommend this movie to other people as well?
Of course. Oh, absolutely. Of course, I'd definitely recommend this. If you like creature features, if you like Christmas creature features, if you like Christmas horror, if you like funny movies, darkly funny horror movies, this is a great one for you guys. And I think that this is recommended, almost even required viewing annually, because it's just so much fun. I'm going to say this. I agree with you 100%, Raven. Like, while I don't usually think original concepts like Krampus need a sequel. In this case, I actually would really like to see a second one, because there's so much that you haven't left, you haven't explored in this movie. We were talking about the mythos of Krampus just as a whole. We're talking about things like it being a lot more relevant today, where people are a lot more jerky. I mean, put this movie and this world and apply it to how people act on social media, and have the spirit of Krampus just persist through the world because of how people are. On a budget of $15 million when this originally came out, so about 30 million, let's say, with marketing, this made $61 million. This doubled its budget, and it actually was a moderately pretty nice success for Universal, with the low budget and everything like that. So it's like there's no reason, as this movie develops a bigger and bigger cult following in the next couple of years, like Trick or Treat did, there's no reason not to move forward with this one, a sequel to this one, one that explores the mythology a lot more, and one that really sticks it to modern day interactions between human beings today, so between society today. So yeah, I'm all for Krampus too. Let's hope it comes.
Hopefully it comes. I'm totally on board with both of you. I do want to see a Krampus 2. I mean, I've been waiting for Trick or Treat 2 forever anyway. So, what I do want to say is I do appreciate Michael Dougherty, because in one of the deleted scenes, Max goes to calm down his cousins, and he hands him a box of candy from Halloween. He opens it, and Sam's lollipop is in the box. And I was like, I know it's a stupid scene that you didn't need to keep in the movie, but all your fans would have so appreciated that.
How did I miss that?
Shared universe, you guys. It's the Trick or Treat universe.
But also, yes, everybody, I feel like, does need to see this movie. It is a good holiday. I watch it every year now for the holidays, especially on Krampusnacht. I do watch it. Everybody in the house watches it. But I would love to see Michael Dougherty do a Trick or Treat 2 and a Krampus 2 in the same year. That would give me so much joy. But that is all the time we have for tonight, guys. Love talking about Krampus with you guys. And I want to give you guys a shout out and let people know out there where they can find you on social medias, in real life, not in real life, because that's crazy. But Raven, let's go ahead and start with you.
I'm an introvert. In real life, you won't find me. Thank you. No, but if you want to find me on social media, you can most often find me on X's for Podcasts. We're now doing live on YouTube Sunday mornings, starting about 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And then you can usually find me around TikTok and Instagram and some of the other places. Come over, start a conversation. Once I get going, I don't stop. Trust me.
Perfect. We'll look out for you. And Mike, go ahead and let the people know where they can find you.
Sure thing. You guys can find me on the nerdsofcolor.org. I'm writing for them articles and interviews all the time. I'm also on whattowatch.com, and that's at LA. But on social, you can find me at TidyBullBoy182. And in real life, I am in a snow globe in hell, just kind of, being monitored by a giant, holiday beast. So yeah, that's where you can find me in real life.
So you're on Earth with the rest of us.
Debatable. We'll see.
You're not wrong.
It feels like hell. I'm pretty sure, So.
Oh yeah. No, I agree.
Hell
with you.
on Earth.
But and I am Erric Ramirez. You can find me on all socials, TikTok, Instagram, all those at Heartless7. That's HARTL3SS7. And then be sure, thank you all for tuning in, but be sure to join our Discord to keep this conversation going, as well as subscribing to all of our platforms across the board at Nom Talk Network. And then tune into our next show, which should be Monday, maybe Black Christmas. We don't know yet. It's going to be a surprise. But until then, again, I'm your host, Eric, and have a nomorific day.